to you live from the campus of High Point University. I'm Cohen Harris.
I'm Stephanie Johnson.
Today we'll be discussing the origin of language in humans.
This will include evidence from archaeology, paleontology, physiology, and neuroscience.
All of these topics have an extensive amount of research and evidence behind them. In this broadcast, we will take a dive into each of the previously mentioned subtopics.
Before we begin, let's head over to Jake Vesey now, who is in the fields asking if our extraordinary students know when human language originated.
Thanks, Cohen and Stephanie. I'm here with Brooke. We're going to ask her about when human language originated. Brooke is not a science major, though. Brooke, what's your major?
I'm undeclared right now.
Okay, so to our second question here, when do you think human language originated?
I'm going to say probably thousands of years ago.
Thanks, Brooke, for the insight. We're here now with Matthew. Matthew is a political science major. Matthew, you want to tell us about when you think human language originated?
Well, I'm probably going to say written language definitely started around Mesopotamia. So I would say somewhere in like the Middle East, about 4,000 years ago, maybe.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Cohen and Stephanie, back to you guys.
Thanks, Jake. We will check back in with you later.
When we get back from the break, Cohen will lead us into our first topic, where he will discuss the evidence of archaeology in the origin of human language. We will be right back.
Are you interested in the behind the scenes of physics? Check out @JeffRegister on YouTube.
Welcome back from the break. Archaeology refers to the study of human activity through the recovery and analysis of material culture. When looking at language from an archaeological viewpoint, there are many things to look at and consider. You can look at how cultures buried their dead, the ceremonial goods used, artwork, tools, and weapons. Here are some pictures of the ceremonial goods, artwork, tools, and weapons as proof as archaeological evidence. Research done by Lain Davidson of the University of England states the earliest findings of ochre, which is a natural pigment and mineral used for rituals and art. These were found in the Blombos cave in Africa dating back to almost 70,000 years ago. Here's a picture of the ochre on the Blombos cave walls. Cave drawings indicate sophisticated symbol use that uses two key features of language. Those two features are open-ended productivity and the ability to use symbols to stand for things displaced in time and place. Other theories state that the process of language may have started around 40,000 to 50,000 years ago. Research backing this includes the beginning of the Upper Paleolithic in Europe. During this time, there was an explosion of symbolic activities. Proof of this can be found in the personal ornaments that Neanderthals wore. These ornaments are interpreted as proof of symbolic thinking. Here are some pictures of the ornaments worn by the Neanderthals. Another archaeological point of evidence would be weapons. The earliest surviving examples of stone tips used on bows and arrows date back to 64,000 years ago. These were found in KwaZulu-Natal, which is now South Africa. Here are pictures of those weapons. The next type of evidence that we'll be covering is paleontology. This will be covered by Stephanie.
Thank you, Cohen, for your insightful news. Now on to paleontology, which is one of the primary contributions to our understanding of the human language. Inserted here are pictures of fossils that are used to study human language. Paleontology is studied through fossils, which are the remains of plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, and single-celled living things that have been replaced by rock material. Paleontology contributes to our understanding of human language by providing evidence of the physical and anatomical changes in the ancestors of humans over time. You're currently looking at some examples of paleontology. Fossilized remains such as skulls, bones, and teeth offer insights into the morphological changes that occurred in our ancestors. This information helps researchers trace the evolutionary timeline of human language and understand the environmental factors that influence our development. Paleontologists rely on tools such as etymology, which is the study of word origins, and written linguistic artifacts. By analyzing the similarities and differences over time, paleontologists can make hypotheses on where the modern-day language stemmed from. Now back over to Jake, who is following with some breaking news.
And Steph, now to that breaking news. A monumentous discovery shows Neanderthals could produce human-like speech based on a detailed analysis and digital reconstruction of the structure of the bones in their skulls. The study settled one aspect of a decades-long debate over linguistic capabilities of Neanderthals. Start quote, "The results are solid and clearly show the Neanderthals had the capacity to perceive and produce human speech. This is one of the very few current ongoing research lines relying on fossil evidence to study the evolution of language, a notoriously tricky subject in anthropology, said paleontologist Ralph Quam of Binghamton University. Physiological evidence is the idea that revolves around the functions of our body parts and among different species. It is believed that research on the origin of language and the functions surrounding this topic are some of the most important topics that are being discussed to date. The debate on the motility of origin, which is the initial main channel carrying verbal information, also has very few contesting theories. According to the gesture first view language, evolved initially from gestures with vocal elements gradually added. One hypothesis is the mirror hypothesis, which postulates that the mechanisms that support language in the human brain evolved atop a basic mechanism not originally related to communication necessarily. So overall, physiological can tell us a lot about the origin of language. And with that being said, it's time to regroup, me, Cohen, and Stephanie, and we're gonna talk to you about our last topic.
Another way that scientists study the origin of language in humans is through neuroscience. Neuroscience refers to the study of how the nervous system develops, how it is structured, and what it does.
For example, some neuroscientists use a method known as comparative neuroanatomy. They study brain scans of living primates to infer the brain of our ancestors look like, compared to the human brain.
Neuroscientists analyze the auditory system of non-human primates that processes speech, sounds, and interconnects the auditory cortex with frontal lobe regions, which is important for spoken language. Now you're looking at a diagram of a human brain.
Scientists from Newcastle University and Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences used comparative neuroanatomy to discover an earlier evolutionary origin to the human language pathway than we supposed, pushing back the discovery of the evolutionary origin of the human language by about 20 million years.
These scientists found a key difference in the human brain compared to the brain of non-human primates. This difference indicates that the left side of the human brain was stronger, whereas the right side appears to have diverged from the auditory evolutionary prototype to involve non-auditory parts of the brain.
In other words, the left side being stronger might suggest a specialized development in the human brain for certain auditory functions. You're now going to be looking at an animated photo of the ape's brain in comparison to a human's brain.
In contrast, the right side diverging from the auditory evolutionary prototype could indicate that in humans, this part of the brain is involved in tasks that go beyond auditory processing.
And that's going to do it, guys, for our video presentation. We've had such an interesting and wonderful time researching this topic, and we hope you enjoyed. And now it's time to take a look at some of our bloopers from our filming segments.
By the way, welcome to
Take two.
Okay. Start.
To physiological information. Wait, psychological, right?
Visuala.
I have more like tone in there.
Hello.
this looks good.
Thank you.
3, 2, 1, 0.
That was good.
Sure.